Now that we've learned how to simplify rational expressions and we've learned how to multiply and divide them, we're going to add and subtract them. And the reason we wait to do that second is because it's actually a little harder to add and subtract them. For the purposes of this class, all you have to know how to do is add and subtract rational expressions with like denominators. So think back to regular fractions. If we look at one like number 1, they have the same denominator. So we have 4/9 plus 2 more 9s. All we got to do is add the numerator. You end up with 6/9, which we can simplify into 2/3. Now, if fractions never made sense to you, let's actually draw ourselves a nice little picture and see what we're talking about here. So we have something cut into 9ths. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not all even, but that's okay. So this one right here says that we have 4 of these shaded in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then because these pieces are exactly the same size, if I add 2 more 9ths, I end up with 6 total 9ths here. And then because we can simplify this, it's because instead of 9ths, we could have thirds. 1, 2, 3. And we have 2 whole thirds crossed off. So same thing with subtraction, works the same. If your denominators are the same, all you gotta do is subtract the numerators. So 3 minus 5 would give us negative 2/7. Same thing with one like this. If you're adding a negative, it's just like subtracting, so you'd end up with negative 4/2, which would be negative 2. Now, if your denominators are different, like this next one, that's where we run into an issue, because for this one, I have some shape cut up into 6ths. And then I have another one cut up into 9ths. And now I have 5/6, so 5 of this size shape, and I want to try to add it to 2 of this size shape. And you can't just go adding things together because the shapes are different sizes. So what we need to do first is get a common denominator. So a number that both 6 and 9 go into is 18. So if we go through and divide these into 18ths, then we could add them up because our shapes are going to be the same size. And you can see that if we turn these into 18ths here. So this first one, I'd have to multiply top and bottom by 3, so I have 15 of the 18ths. And then I'd have 4 of the 9s, because you're going to multiply by 2. So then we end up with 19 of these 18ths, but you can only add them together because the denominators are the same. So like I said before, you will not have to do common denominator stuff with rational expressions in Algebra 1. In Algebra 2, you definitely have to, but we can do them with like denominators. So let's do a couple. So we add these together. Remember, your denominator stays the same, but that's what you got to check for. So these guys have the same denominator. That means that's going to be in my answer, x plus 2. And then all we got to do is add the numerators, 3 plus 2, and then simplify when you can. Remember, don't go crossing this off here because this is really 5 over x plus 2. And we're done. I'm going to skip the middle one. That's for you to do on your own, but let's do C. So my denominators are the same, so I know that's going to be in my answer. And all I got to do is add my numerators. So 5n plus 2n is 7n. Now you want to make sure that nothing crosses off. Be careful not to cross off these n's, because remember this is together. And because nothing crosses off, we're done. Of course, it's got to get a little harder, so let's do some subtraction. Now you got to be careful when you're doing subtraction, because if you have more than one thing to subtract, like these guys over here, you got to make sure you subtract both things. But let's start with an easy one. So denominators are the same, that's got to be in my answer. And then on the top, I'm going to do 4 minus 5, which is negative 1. And we're done. I'm leaving B for you, but let's tackle C together. So my denominator is going to be 5m plus 2. And now if you need to, rewrite it like this so you kind of see what's going on here. We need to distribute a negative 1 here. So the thing that I kind of do in my head to skip that is I'll change this to a plus sign and make this negative and make that positive. So it kind of just changes the signs on everybody, and then we can combine like terms. So on the top I'll end up with negative 1c plus 5, and on the bottom I'll get 5m plus 2. Always double check that nothing can cross off, and neither of these have a GCF, so we know we're good and we're done. So I'm going to leave this one for you to try as well as the other one, and that's it. So make sure you write down any questions you have, enjoy your long weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday.